The fist hits the door at 3:47 in the afternoon. Jacques Moreau knows the sound. Wood splintering under desperate hands. He has heard it twice already today, now a third time. He stands motionless in his bakery on the Rue de la Roquette, flour dust settling on his shoulders like ash. Behind him, the brick oven radiates heat into the already stifling July air. Before him, through the shop's narrow window, he can see them gathering. 20 people, perhaps 30, more arriving every minute. They know he has bread. They can smell it. Jacques counts his remaining loaves. 12. He counted them an hour ago, counted them 2 hours ago. The number has not changed. 12 loaves, each one 4 pounds of dark rye flour, baked with the last of his supplies. The crowd outside numbers at least 40 now. His daughter Marie stands beside the oven, her face pale. She is 14 years old enough to understand the mathematics of hunger. 12 loaves, 40 families. The door shudders under another blow. Jacques closes his eyes. In his mind, he can already see tonight, can see the empty shop, the overturned baskets, the broken windows, can see his wife Catherine's face when he tells her there is no money left, can see his daughter's face when the mob comes back tomorrow. But that is tonight, that is tomorrow. First, he must survive the next 10 minutes. The question burns in his chest, hotter than the oven behind him. Who deserves to eat today? Who lives hungry tonight so others can live at all? He opens his eyes. It is July 13th, 1789. The city of Paris stands on the edge of a knife. Tomorrow will bring revolution, the storming of the Bastille, the overthrow of an ancient order, the birth of a new world. But Jacques Moreau does not know about tomorrow. He knows only this. The price of flour has tripled in 6 months. The king's German mercenaries patrol the streets. His neighbors are starving. And he has 12 loaves of bread. The door splinters. The mob surges forward. This is where the day leads. But the day began differently. Began in darkness, in the quiet hour before dawn, when Jacques could still believe that everything might be different. Began when he still had hope. Darkness holds the city when Jacques wakes. 4 o'clock in the morning. He knows the time without checking. His body has woken at this hour for 23 years, since the day he became a baker's apprentice at age 19. Since the day he inherited this shop from his master 12 years ago. He lies still for a moment, listening. The sounds of Paris filter through the shuttered window, a dog barking, cartwheels on cobblestones, the distant church bells of St. Paul tolling the hour. No gunshots, not yet. Catherine sleeps beside him, her breathing soft and steady. He watches her face in the dim light filtering through the shutters. After 18 years of marriage, he can read her dreams in the lines around her eyes. They have deepened lately. The past 6 months have aged her, have aged them all. Jacques rises carefully, not wanting to wake her. The floorboards creak under his weight, a baker's body, solid from years of kneading dough, lifting grain sacks, working the long wooden peel that slides loaves into the oven's heart. He dresses in the same clothes he has worn for 3 days. Linen shirt, waistcoat, canvas breeches. There is no money for new clothes. Has not been for months. Every sou goes to flour. Every sou, and still not enough. The numbers run through his mind constantly now. A litany, a prayer. 1 sack of flour, 28 livres. 3 weeks ago, it cost 19 livres. 6 months ago, 14 livres. Last year, at this time, 9 livres. 1 4-pound loaf of bread, 14 sous. His customers, the laborers, the washerwomen, The street sweepers of the Faubourg Saint-Antoine earn perhaps 20 sous for a full day's work, if they can find work, if there is work to find. 14 sous for bread, 6 sous for everything else: rent, candles, firewood, clothing, medicine. The mathematics of hunger. Jacques knows these calculations the way a priest knows prayers. He descends the narrow stairs to the bakery below. The shop occupies the ground floor of their building, a cramped space with the brick oven dominating the rear wall, the counter near the front, wooden shelves along the sides. The ceiling beams are black with decades of smoke and heat. This room is his kingdom, his prison, his entire world. Jacques opens the shutters. Pale gray light filters in. Dawn comes slowly in July, the sun rising late and reluctant over Paris. He can see the street, the Rue de la Roquette, a narrow artery in the working-class Faubourg Saint-Antoine. Across the way, the carpenter's shop remains shuttered. Next door, the cobbler's. Everyone sleeping late, hoarding their energy for the day ahead. Everyone except Bakers. He lights the oil lamp. The wick catches, spreads, fills the room with amber light. He moves to the oven and opens the iron door. Inside, embers from yesterday's fire glow faintly. He adds kindling, precious kindling, increasingly expensive, and blows gently until flames appear. The fire is the heart of everything. Without fire, no bread. Without bread, no life. Jacques has been feeding this fire for 12 years. He measures out flour from his dwindling supply. The sack sits in the corner, tied shut, guarded like treasure, because it is treasure, more valuable than gold. Gold cannot be eaten. The flour is dark rye, mixed with barley, rough and coarse, not the fine white flour of rich men's bread. That flour costs 50 livres per sack now. Might as well be diamonds. He adds water from the bucket. Salt, the sourdough starter he has kept alive for years, passed down from his master, who received it from his master, an unbroken chain stretching back generations. The starter smells sharp and yeasty, alive in ways that comfort him, something still living in a dying world. His hands move through the familiar motions, mixing, kneading. The dough is stiff and resistant. The poor flour does not want to cooperate. He works it harder, feeling the burn in his shoulders, the ache in his lower back. Outside, the city begins to wake. He can hear it through the walls. Footsteps, voices, the rumble of carts, Paris stirring like a great beast, hungry and angry and afraid. Yesterday, they dismissed Jacques Necker. The news spread through the streets like fire through dry wood. Necker, the finance minister, the Swiss banker who had tried to save France from bankruptcy, the one-man King Louis the 16th, trusted with the nation's collapsing economy, dismissed, sent away, replaced by men who wanted to crush the people's demands for reform. Jacques heard the news from his neighbor, Christophe, who heard it from a pamphleteer in the Palais Royal, who heard it from someone who worked in the royal palace at Versailles. The news traveled faster than horses, faster than carriages, carried on the wings of panic and rage. In the Palais Royal gardens yesterday afternoon, people gathered by the thousands. Orators stood on tables, on benches, on anything elevated, and shouted about tyranny, about foreign soldiers, about the king's betrayal. Jacques did not go. He never has time for politics, for speeches, for anything beyond flour and fire and daily survival. But his neighbors went, and they came back changed. He shapes the dough into rough rounds and sets them aside to rise. 4 hours from now, they will be ready for the oven. 4 hours from now, he will have bread to sell. Assuming the mob does not tear down his door first, The stairs creak. Catherine appears in the doorway, wrapped in her shawl. Her hair hangs loose around her shoulders. She is 40 years old, but looks older in this light. Tired, worn. "You did not sleep," she says. "Not a question. I slept enough." Jacques returns to kneading another batch of dough. Marie is still asleep? Yes. Catherine moves to the water bucket, dips a cup, drinks. How much flour remains? He does not answer immediately. The question hangs in the air between them, heavy with implications. "Enough for today," he says finally. "Perhaps tomorrow. And after tomorrow? I do not know." Catherine sets down the cup. She crosses the room and stands beside him, watching his hands work the dough. They have had this conversation before. Many times, always the same words, always the same helpless conclusion. "Christophe says the grain convoys from Normandy have stopped," she says quietly. "The roads are too dangerous. Bandits, angry villagers who need the grain for themselves." "I know." He says, "There will be riots. There are always riots." Jacques shapes another loaf. "We survive them. We always do." This feels different. He stops kneading, looks at her. In her eyes, he sees genuine fear. Catherine is not easily frightened. She grew up in this neighborhood, daughter of a tanner, accustomed to hardship and struggle, but something in the air terrifies her now. "The soldiers," she continues, "the foreign soldiers. Why would the king bring in Germans, Swiss mercenaries, to patrol French streets unless he plans something terrible?" Jacques has wondered the same thing. The Royal-Allemand cavalry, German horsemen in their blue coats and brass helmets, have been visible throughout Paris for days. They do not speak French. They do not care about French people. They follow orders. That is what makes them useful to a frightened king. "The king fears the people," Jacques says, "so he brings in foreigners who have no sympathy for us, no ties to our city. Men who will shoot if commanded to shoot. Then why do we stay?" The question strikes him like a physical blow. Where would they go? They are bakers in Paris. They own this shop, this oven, this small kingdom of flour and fire. Leave, and they lose everything. Leave, and they become refugees, beggars, people without homes or professions. "We stay because this is our life," he says simply. Catherine nods slowly. She knows. She has always known. But sometimes the knowing needs to be spoken aloud. She kisses his flour-dusted cheek and returns upstairs to wake their daughter. Jacques continues working. The dough rises slowly in the summer heat. Outside, the sun climbs higher. The city grows louder. And in his chest, beneath the ribs, he feels the first stirrings of what will become the day's central question. When the mob comes, and it will come, what will he do? By 6 o'clock in the morning, the loaves are in the oven. Jacques stands before the open oven door, feeling the blast of heat against his face. 12 loaves arranged on the stone shelf inside. He watches them carefully. The art of baking lies in knowing when the bread is finished. Too soon, and the center remains raw. Too late, and the crust burns black. He has been judging this moment for 23 years. He no longer needs to think about it. His body knows. But today, his mind wanders. Today, every moment feels weighted with significance. The bread will be ready by 9 o'clock. He will open the shop. The customers will come. And then the decisions begin. Marie descends the stairs, already dressed in her work clothes, a simple linen dress, patched at the elbows, hem frayed. She has grown tall this year, shooting up like a weed, and her dress no longer fits properly. Catherine has let out the seams twice already. Soon they will need to buy new fabric. With what money? Jacques does not know. Papa, Marie embraces him quickly. Mama says I should help you in the shop today. You should be at your sewing. Marie has been apprenticed to a seamstress on the Rue Saint-Antoine, learning the trade that might provide her dowry someday, a skill to bargain with when the time comes to find a husband. Madame Toulouse closed her shop, Marie says. She says it is too dangerous to have customers come and go. The soldiers frightened her yesterday. Jacques feels a spike of anxiety. If established shopkeepers are closing their doors, the situation has deteriorated further than he realized. What happened with the soldiers? They rode through the street. The Royal-Allemand cavalry. Madame Toulouse says they were looking for weapons. They went into shops, demanded to search. When Monsieur Baudin, the wine merchant, refused, they broke his door. Jacques absorbs this information. Weapons. The soldiers are searching for weapons, which means someone in authority fears the people are arming themselves, which means someone in authority knows what is coming. Stay close to me today, he tells Marie. Stay inside the shop. Do not go into the street alone. She nods, understanding in her young eyes. She has lived through bread riots before the spring of 1788, when the price of flour first began to climb. She remembers the broken windows, the screaming, the fear. This time feels different. Even she can sense it. The morning passes in familiar rhythms. Jacques tends the oven. Catherine prepares their meager breakfast, yesterday's bread, soaked in watered wine, a luxury they can barely afford. Marie sweeps the shop floor, arranging the counter, preparing for customers. They eat together in silence. The bread is tough, chewy, difficult to swallow. Jacques forces it down. He needs strength for the day ahead. At 8:15, he removes the first loaves from the oven. The smell fills the shop, that primal, ancient aroma of baked bread, humanity's oldest food, civilization's foundation. The smell that has sustained life since the first Egyptian farmers ground wheat between stones 5,000 years ago. Jacques sets the loaves on the cooling rack. They are dark, almost black, the crust thick and hard. Poor bread, hungry bread, but bread nonetheless. He counts them again. 12. Catherine appears beside him, her face troubled. I walked to the market, she says quietly, to see if any farmers brought vegetables today. And the market is empty, the Place de la Bastille empty. No farmers, no wagons, nothing. Jacques feels cold despite the oven's heat. If the farmers are not coming into Paris, it means they fear for their safety. It means the roads are cut. It means the city is being isolated. There were soldiers, Catherine continues, at the city gates, checking everyone who entered or left. People are saying the king plans to starve Paris into submission, prevent food from entering until we accept his authority. The king is a fool. The words escape before Jacques can stop them. Dangerous words, words that could get a man imprisoned, but he no longer cares. The king is a fool, has always been a fool, well-meaning perhaps, but weak, indecisive, surrounded by terrible advisers. And now Parisians will pay the price of his foolishness. What will we do? Catherine asks. Jacques looks at the bread. 12 loaves, his entire inventory, worth perhaps 8 livres, 4 sous if he can sell them all. Not enough to buy more flour, not enough to pay the rent, not enough to survive another week. We do what we always do, he says. We work, we sell, we hope tomorrow brings something different. But he does not believe it. Tomorrow will bring nothing different. Tomorrow will bring only more hunger, more fear, more impossible choices. The church bells toll 9 o'clock. Jacques unlocks the shop door. The crowd is already waiting. They surge forward the moment the door opens. Jacques barely has time to step back before they fill his shop, men, women, children, all talking at once, all pressing toward the counter, all desperate. The air becomes thick with bodies and heat, and the smell of unwashed clothing. Bread. I need bread. My family has not eaten in 2 days. Please, Monsieur Moreau, just one loaf. Jacques raises his hands, trying to create order from chaos. His voice cuts through the noise. Silence. Everyone will be served in turn. The crowd quiets slightly. They know him. He is their baker. He has sold them bread for 12 years. He is one of them, a worker, a tradesman, a man who understands struggle. They trust him. That trust feels like a weight around his neck. He begins serving. First comes Madame Benoit, the washerwoman from 3 doors down. She is 55 years old, bent and weathered from decades of labor. Her hands are red and cracked from lye soap. 1 loaf, she says, placing coins on the counter. 14 sous, exactly the right amount. Jacques hands her the bread. She clutches it to her chest like a child and pushes back through the crowd, protecting her treasure. Next is Claude, a young journeyman carpenter, 22 years old, strong, healthy, employed a rarity now. He can afford bread. Then Jean, a seamstress. Then Pierre, a porter. Then Marguerite, a flower seller. One by one, they come forward. One by one, Jacques serves them. The pile of loaves diminishes. 9 loaves, 8, 7. The shop remains packed. More people push in from the street. Word has spread. Moreau has bread. The crowd swells. Jacques counts heads. At least 30 people still waiting. Maybe 40. 6 loaves remaining. His heart begins to race. This is the moment he has dreaded. The moment when supply and demand become a moral calculation, when feeding some means starving others. Who decides who eats? A man pushes to the front someone Jacques does not recognize. Middle-aged, rough clothes, a scar across his cheek. His eyes are hard. 1 loaf, the man demands. 14 sous. Jacques replies evenly. The man's expression hardens. I have no money. The shop goes quiet. Everyone watches this exchange, understanding its significance. Then I cannot sell you bread, Jacques says. My children are starving. Many children are starving. I cannot give away bread. I have a family also. I need to buy more flour. There is no more flour, the man shouts. The convoys have stopped. The markets are empty. This is the last bread in the neighborhood and you refuse to share it? Jacques feels the mood shift. The crowd presses closer. Faces that were friendly moments ago now look hostile, desperate. I will share what I can, Jacques says carefully, but I must receive payment. I have expenses. Expenses. The scarred man spits on the floor. You speak of expenses while children die? My child will die if I give away our livelihood. Jacques hears the edge in his own voice. I am sorry, truly, but I cannot help everyone, cannot or will not. The question hangs in the air. Before Jacques can respond, another voice cuts through the tension. It is Christophe, his neighbor, pushing through the crowd. Moreau is right, Christophe says loudly. He is a baker, not a charity. He has his own family to feed. And what about our families? Someone shouts from the back. What about the fact that the king's policies created this shortage? Another voice joins in. Moreau should give the bread to the people. We will deal with the king later. The crowd murmurs agreement, angry agreement. Jacques sees where this leads, can see the moment 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes when the crowd stops asking and starts taking, when hunger overrides civility, when the mob becomes something more dangerous than the sum of its individuals. Marie stands behind him, silent and terrified. He makes a decision. "Listen to me," Jacques says, his voice cutting through the noise. "I have 6 loaves remaining. I will sell 4 of them at the normal price. The other 2 I will cut into pieces and distribute freely to anyone who truly has no money. But there must be order. You must form a line. You must wait your turn. Anyone who causes trouble will receive nothing." The crowd considers this. It is not enough. 2 loaves divided among 30 people will barely provide a mouthful each. But it is something. It is fairness attempting to exist in an unfair world. Slowly, reluctantly, they begin to organize themselves. A line forms. Jacques sells the 4 loaves to those with money. Then he takes the remaining 2 loaves and begins cutting them with his bread knife. Small pieces, very small. He distributes them carefully. 1 piece to each person who approaches with empty hands and desperate eyes. An old woman, a boy of perhaps 10, a pregnant woman, a man missing his left arm, probably an injured soldier from some forgotten war. The bread disappears piece by piece. When the last crumb is gone, the shop finally empties. The crowd disperses into the street, muttering, dissatisfied but not violent. Not yet. Jacques closes the door. His hands shake. Catherine embraces Marie, who is crying silently. Jacques leans against the counter, exhausted. "That could have gone worse," Christophe says. "He has remained behind, but it will go worse tomorrow." "I know. You have no more flour? Enough for perhaps 10 loaves tomorrow, maybe 12 if I stretch it, then nothing." Christophe nods slowly. "I have something to tell you. There is a meeting tonight. At the Réveillon warehouse, people are organizing, planning to take action. Jacques knows about Réveillon. Everyone knows. The wallpaper manufacturer whose factory was burned by a mob in April after he suggested lowering workers' wages. The riot left dozens dead when soldiers opened fire. What kind of action? Jacques asks, though he already suspects the answer. There is talk of seizing weapons. The Hôtel des Invalides has muskets. The Bastille has gunpowder and more weapons. If the king will not listen to reason, perhaps he will listen to force. That is revolution. Yes. Christophe meets his eyes. It is. Jacques says nothing. Revolution. The word itself feels enormous, overwhelming. For all his life, France has been ruled by kings. The order of things seemed permanent, unchangeable. The nobility had their privileges, the clergy had their power. The common people, the third estate, as they are called, had their work and their suffering. But perhaps nothing is permanent. Perhaps everything can change. Or perhaps everything can simply collapse into chaos and blood. You should come tonight, Christophe says. We need men like you, respected men, men the neighborhood trusts. I am a baker, not a revolutionary. Today, every baker must decide if he is also a revolutionary. Because if we do nothing, we will all starve. The king has chosen his side. Now we must choose ours. Christophe leaves. Jacques stands in his empty shop, surrounded by the lingering smell of bread, and wonders what he will choose. Noon arrives with oppressive heat. Jacques closes the shop. There is nothing left to sell anyway. He climbs the stairs to their small apartment above the bakery. Catherine has prepared what passes for lunch. Bread from yesterday, thin vegetable soup made from onion peels and water, a single piece of hard cheese, divided 3 ways. They eat in silence. Through the window, Jacques can hear the city, voices in the street, shouting, The clatter of horses' hooves, soldiers, probably, the rumble of heavy wheels cannon, perhaps, the sound of a city preparing for something terrible. Marie picks at her food, her appetite gone. Catherine stares at her soup without eating. Jacques forces down his portion mechanically. Food is fuel. He needs fuel. What will you do? Catherine asks finally. About what? About Christophe's meeting? About the revolution? Jacques sets down his spoon. I am a baker. My role is to bake bread. There will be no bread to bake if there is no flour, and there will be no flour if the situation continues. And if I join this revolution and get killed by soldiers, what then? Who bakes bread for you and Marie? Catherine's expression hardens. If you do nothing and the king starves Paris, we die anyway. At least if you fight, we die with dignity. The words sting. Jacques knows she is right. Inaction is also a choice that leads to slow starvation, to watching his family wither and fade. But action leads to violence, to blood in the streets, to widows and orphans. I will think about it, he says. Think quickly. History will not wait for you to be comfortable. After lunch, Jacques descends to the bakery. He needs to prepare the last of his flour for tomorrow's baking. Needs to calculate exactly how many loaves he can produce. Needs to plan. But his mind refuses to cooperate. His thoughts circle endlessly. Revolution, starvation, family, duty, survival, morality. What is the right choice? He measures out the remaining flour, 20 pounds. With careful rationing, he can produce 12 loaves tomorrow, perhaps 14 if he adds more water, more barley, stretches the dough further. But stretched too far, bread becomes inedible, becomes nothing but air and disappointment. The door rattles. Someone is outside, knocking urgently. Jacques opens it to find a boy 12 years old, raggedly dressed, breathing hard from running. Monsieur Moreau, the boy gasps. My father sent me. There are soldiers coming. The Royal-Allemand cavalry. They are searching houses for weapons. I have no weapons. They do not care. They are breaking furniture, tearing up floors, looking for hidden arms. My father says you should hide anything valuable. They steal things, claim they are confiscated for the king. Jacques feels his stomach tighten. He has nothing valuable, no silver, no jewelry, no gold. But he has flour, 20 pounds of flour. If soldiers confiscate that, his family truly starves. How much time before they arrive? Maybe an hour, maybe less. The boy runs off to warn other neighbors. Jacques stands in his doorway, mind racing. He could hide the flour, but where? The apartment above has no good hiding places. The cellar? Too obvious. They will search everywhere. He could try to sell the flour, quickly turn it into money before the soldiers arrive. But who would buy it? Everyone in the neighborhood is as desperate as he is. And carrying that much money through streets filled with soldiers and desperate people would be suicide. He could bake the bread now. Soldiers are less likely to confiscate finished bread than raw flour. But that would mean using his oven, which would produce smoke, which would attract attention. Every option leads to disaster. Catherine appears beside him. What is happening? He explains. Her face goes pale. We must hide it, she says. Where? They look at each other, both understanding the impossibility of the situation. Then Jacques has an idea. The oven, he says. Catherine frowns. What? The oven. We hide the flour inside the oven. When the soldiers come, the oven will be cold. They will not think to look inside. It is a desperate plan. Risky. If the flour catches even a stray ember, it will ignite. An oven fire could burn down the entire building. But the alternative is watching soldiers take their last hope of survival. They work quickly. Jacques scoops the flour back into its sack, ties it tightly. He cleans out the oven's interior, making sure no embers remain. Catherine brings damp cloths, lays them on the oven floor. Jacques places the flour sack on top of the damp cloths, then covers it with more damp fabric. He closes the oven door. From outside, it looks like any oven in any bakery, cooling, waiting for tomorrow's fire. They have just finished when the sound of hoofbeats fills the street. The soldiers have arrived. Act 2. The pressure cooker. Climax. The Royal-Allemand cavalry comes in force. Jacques watches through the shop window as they dismount 10 soldiers, maybe 12, in blue coats and brass helmets, sabers hanging at their sides. They speak German to each other, harsh consonants that sound like threats even when they might be ordinary conversation. An officer, French, judging by his accent, stands in the center of the street and shouts instructions. All residents will open their doors for inspection. Anyone who refuses will be arrested. We are searching for weapons and contraband. Cooperation will be rewarded. Resistance will be punished. Along the Rue de la Roquette, doors open reluctantly. Shopkeepers and residents emerge, faces tight with fear and resentment. Jacques opens his door. Catherine and Marie stand behind him. 2 soldiers approach young men, probably in their early 20s. They look bored. This is routine for them. Another day, another search, another city full of hostile French people who mean nothing to them. One soldier enters without asking permission. His eyes sweep the shop, taking inventory. He walks to the counter, to the shelves, checking for anything valuable. The second soldier speaks in broken French. "You have weapons?" "No weapons," Jacques replies. "I am a baker. I have only flour and ovens." We check. They begin searching, opening cabinets, looking under the counter, pulling down the few items on the shelves, empty baskets, the bread knife, a measuring cup. The first soldier moves toward the oven. Jacques' heart stops. The soldier opens the oven door, peers inside. Jacques can see his flour sack, sitting there wrapped in damp cloths, clearly visible if anyone looks carefully. But the soldier barely glances. The oven is cold. Why would a cold oven hide anything interesting? He closes the door and moves on. Jacques releases a breath he did not know he was holding. The soldiers finish their search quickly. Nothing valuable, nothing worth stealing. They leave without a word. But as they exit, Jacques sees them enter the cobbler's shop next door, sees old Monsieur Dubois arguing with them, sees one soldier push him roughly, sees the other soldier emerge carrying a pair of expensive boots, probably a customer's order, probably worth a week's wages. Monsieur Dubois protests. The soldier strikes him across the face with a gloved hand. Jacques moves instinctively toward the door, but Catherine grabs his arm. "No," she hisses, "do not interfere. They are robbing him, and they will rob us too if you give them reason. Stay inside." Jacques watches helplessly as the soldiers take the boots and move on to the next house. Monsieur Dubois stands in his doorway, hand pressed to his bleeding mouth, dignity shattered. The soldiers work their way down the street, house by house, shop by shop. Sometimes they take things. Sometimes they just destroy things, overturning furniture, smashing pottery, leaving chaos in their wake. This is occupation. This is what happens when a king fears his own people. He brings in foreigners who have no stake in French lives, who see Parisians as potential enemies, who can be commanded to kill without hesitation. The The soldiers eventually mount their horses and ride away. The street erupts in angry murmurs. Neighbors emerge from their homes, checking on each other, assessing damage. Christophe appears at Jacques' door again. "You see," Christophe says quietly, "you see what we are dealing with? This is why we must act." Jacques nods slowly. Yes, he sees. "The meeting tonight," Jacques says. "Where?" "The Réveillon warehouse, 8 o'clock. Bring anyone you trust." After Christophe leaves, Jacques stands in his shop, staring at the oven that saved his flour, and realizes something fundamental has changed inside him. He has been trying to remain neutral, to focus only on his work, his family, his survival, to avoid politics, avoid taking sides, avoid the dangerous choice between king and people. But neutrality is not possible anymore. The soldiers made that clear. There are only two sides now, those with power and those without, those who eat and those who starve, those who give orders and those who suffer them. Jacques has spent his entire life on one side of that divide. Perhaps it is time to fight back. The afternoon drags. Jacques cannot focus on anything. He paces the bakery, climbs the stairs, paces the apartment, returns to the bakery. His mind churns with possibilities, with plans, with fears. If he attends the meeting tonight, he commits to revolution. There is no going back from that. Once you stand with rebels, you become a rebel. If the king's forces win, rebels are hanged, or worse. But if he stays home, stays safe, stays neutral, what then? Slow starvation, watching his family waste away, watching soldiers continue their theft and brutality? There are no good choices, only impossible ones. Catherine finds him at 4 o'clock, standing motionless in the empty shop. "You have decided," she says. "Not a question." "Yes, you will go." "I must." She nods slowly. "Then I am coming with you." "No, absolutely not. It is too dangerous." "If it is too dangerous for me, it is too dangerous for you. We face this together." "Marie?" "Marie will stay with Madame Benoit. She will be safe." Catherine's voice is steel. "I will not sit home while you risk your life. We are partners. We have always been partners." Jacques wants to argue, wants to protect her, but he knows that tone, knows that when Catherine makes a decision, nothing will change her mind. "We tell no one," he says finally. "Not even Marie. She knows only that we are visiting neighbors." Agreed. They spend the remainder of the afternoon in tense preparation. Jacques retrieves the flour from the oven still dry, still safe. He begins the process of preparing dough for tomorrow, though his hands shake and his mind refuses to focus on measurements and timing. Catherine mends a tear in Jacques' coat. Practical, always practical. If they are arrested tonight, at least his coat will be whole. At 7 o'clock, they eat a small supper. Marie chatters about her day, about something funny Madame Toulouse said last week, about a dress pattern she wants to try. Her innocent cheerfulness feels surreal. She has no idea that tonight might change everything. At 7:30, Catherine takes Marie next door to Madame Benoit's apartment. "We will return late," Catherine tells the old woman. "There is a matter we must attend to." Madame Benoit looks at them knowingly. She does not ask questions. In times like these, questions can be dangerous. At 7:45, Jacques and Catherine leave their building. The summer sun hangs low in the western sky, painting the buildings amber and gold. The streets are unusually quiet, not the stillness of peace, but the stillness of held breath. Everyone waiting, everyone watching. They walk southwest, toward the Faubourg Saint-Antoine's industrial heart, past silent workshops, past shuttered taverns, past groups of men standing in doorways, talking in low voices. Everyone is going somewhere tonight. Everyone has made their choice. The Réveillon warehouse looms ahead, a massive brick structure that once employed hundreds of workers making decorative wallpaper for rich men's homes. Now it stands half empty, the wallpaper business destroyed by the economic crisis, but its vast interior makes it perfect for large gatherings. Dozens of people converge on the building from all directions. Workers, artisans, shopkeepers, men and women, young and old. The neighborhood's heart, gathering to decide its fate. At the entrance, two men stand guard. Jacques recognizes one Etienne, a blacksmith from the Rue de Charonne. Moreau, Etienne nods. Good. We need clear heads tonight. What is the plan? You will hear inside. Come. They enter the warehouse. The vast space is packed with people Jacques estimates at least 300, possibly more. Lanterns hang from the ceiling, casting flickering light across faces tight with determination and fear. On a makeshift platform at the front, several men stand. Christophe is among them. So is Jean-Baptiste Humbert, a respected wine merchant. And others Jacques does not recognize, probably representatives from other neighborhoods, other districts of Paris. Humbert raises his hands for silence. The crowd gradually quiets. Friends, Humbert's voice carries across the space. You all know why we are here. The king has betrayed us. He dismissed Necker, the one man who tried to help the common people. He brings in foreign soldiers to intimidate us. He cuts off our food supply. He means to starve us into submission. Murmurs of angry agreement ripple through the crowd. But we are not helpless, Humbert continues. Paris has 40,000 workers. The king has perhaps 15,000 soldiers. If we unite, if we arm ourselves, if we show him we will not bow, he must listen. Where do we get arms? Someone shouts from the crowd. The Hôtel des Invalides. Another man on the platform answers. Jacques recognizes him now, Santerre, a brewer from the Rue de la Roquette, the Veterans' Hospital. They have 30,000 muskets stored there, muskets that belong to France, not to the king. And the Bastille, Christophe adds, the fortress has gunpowder, cannon, more weapons. We need both muskets from the Invalides, powder from the Bastille. The crowd erupts in discussion. Jacques listens to the voices around him, excitement, fear, bloodlust, practical concerns. When do we act? Someone asks. Tomorrow, Humbert declares. Tomorrow morning. We march to the Invalides at dawn. We demand they open the armory. If they refuse, we take it. And the Bastille? The Bastille is stronger, defended. But if we have muskets from the Invalides, we can threaten them, force them to surrender the powder. Jacques' mind races. This is really happening. Tomorrow morning, he will march with 300, perhaps thousands of Parisians to seize weapons from the king's installations. Tomorrow morning, he becomes an enemy of the crown. Tomorrow morning, everything changes. Catherine grips his hand. He looks at her, sees his own fear reflected in her eyes, but also determination. They have made their choice. The meeting continues for another hour. Details are hammered out, assembly points, times, who will lead which groups, what to do if soldiers attack, how to spread word throughout Paris. Finally, Humbert raises his hands again. Go home, he says. Rest. Say goodbye to your families. Tomorrow we become free Frenchmen or we die trying. The crowd disperses slowly, people filtering out in small groups to avoid attention. Jacques and Catherine wait until most have left. then slip out into the deepening twilight. They walk home in silence. Around them, Paris settles into uneasy night. Candles flicker in windows. Voices murmur behind closed doors. The city knows something is coming. They retrieve Marie from Madame Benoit's apartment at 10 o'clock. Their daughter looks up at them with questions in her eyes, but she does not ask them. Perhaps she already understands that some questions should not be spoken aloud. Back in their apartment, Catherine prepares Marie for bed, while Jacques stands at the window, looking out over the dark street. Summer heat lingers despite the hour. The air feels thick, oppressive, pregnant with potential. Somewhere in Paris, the king's soldiers sleep in their barracks. Somewhere, noblemen recline in their palaces, unconcerned with the suffering of common people. Somewhere, ministers and advisers debate policy and politics, unaware that their world is about to shatter. Tomorrow. Everything changes tomorrow. Catherine joins him at the window after putting Marie to bed. "Are you frightened?" she asks quietly. "Terrified." "Me too." They stand together, looking out at their city, their home, the place where they have built their life such as it is, the place where they have raised their daughter, buried their parents, worked and struggled and survived. Tomorrow they might lose it all. "If something happens to me tomorrow," Jacques begins, "nothing will happen. But if it does, take Marie, leave Paris, go to your sister in Burgundy, start over. I will not leave you. Catherine, I will not." Her voice is absolute. "We face tomorrow together, whatever comes." Jacques pulls her close. They stand like that for a long time, holding each other, drawing strength from the simple fact of shared presence. Eventually they go to bed. Jacques lies awake in the darkness, listening to Catherine's breathing, counting the hours until dawn. His mind will not rest, keep circling through all the terrible possibilities. He could die tomorrow, shot by soldiers, trampled by horses, arrested and hanged. His family could starve without him. Catherine and Marie, alone, vulnerable, with no baker's income to sustain them. Or the possibility he barely dares to imagine they could win, could overthrow the old order, could create something new, a France where bakers' daughters have futures, where common people have voices, where bread is not a luxury reserved for those who can pay. Could tomorrow be the day everything changes for the better? Jacques rises at 2 o'clock in the morning, cannot sleep, no point in trying. He descends to the bakery and lights a single candle. The oven sits cold and empty. He cannot bake today. Today is for revolution, not for bread. But his hands need familiar tasks. He begins cleaning, sweeping flour, dust, organizing tools, putting his kingdom in order, just in case he never returns to it. Catherine finds him at 3 o'clock. She does not ask why he is awake. She simply joins him, helping with the cleaning, sharing the silent vigil. At 4 o'clock, the first hints of grey light appear in the eastern sky. Jacques goes upstairs and dresses carefully, puts on his best shirt, his only good shirt, his sturdy boots, his mended coat. He kisses sleeping Marie goodbye, whispers that he loves her, though she cannot hear. Then he and Catherine walk downstairs, out the shop door, into the pre-dawn streets of Paris. Other people are already moving, shadows in the dimness. Men and women converging toward the assembly points. No one speaks. Silence is safer. They reach the Place de la Bastille as the sun begins to rise. Hundreds of people have gathered, perhaps 1,000, more arriving every minute. Jacques sees Christophe, sees Etienne the blacksmith, sees Santerre the brewer, sees shopkeepers, porters, washerwomen, craftsmen, sees the working heart of Paris, armed with nothing but desperation and hope. At precisely 5 o'clock, the church bells toll the hour. Someone at the front of the crowd shouts, "To the Invalides!" The mass of humanity begins to move. Jacques and Catherine move with them, caught in the current, part of something larger than themselves, part of history. They march west through the awakening city, past the Hôtel de Ville, past Notre Dame, past the Louvre. Hundreds becoming thousands as people pour from side streets and alleys. The sun climbs higher, gold light floods the streets. July 14th, 1789 has begun, but that is tomorrow's story. Tonight, this night of July 13th, Jacques Moreau stands in his bakery one last time before everything changes. He has made his choice. Tomorrow he will march, will demand freedom or die trying, will become part of the force that storms the Bastille and ignites the French Revolution. But tonight, he is still just a baker. He runs his hand along the oven's brick exterior, still warm from the day's heat. This oven has fed him for 12 years, has fed his family, has fed his neighbors. It is a simple thing, brick and mortar, fire and flour, but it represents everything he has built. Tomorrow he might lose it, or tomorrow he might help build a world where bakers can prosper, where children can eat, where dignity is not a luxury reserved for nobles. Jacques does not know which tomorrow will come. No one does. History is being written hour by hour, and no one can predict the ending. But he knows this. He can no longer remain neutral, can no longer focus only on his private survival while his neighbors starve and soldiers steal with impunity. The question that haunted him this morning, who deserves to eat today, has transformed into a deeper question. What world do we deserve to live in? And the answer has become clear. A world where everyone eats, where justice exists, where power flows from the people, not from inherited crowns and ancient privileges. That world does not exist yet, but perhaps it can be born tomorrow. Jacques locks the bakery door, climbs the stairs, slips into bed beside his sleeping wife. Outside, Paris dreams restlessly. Inside, Jacques closes his eyes and waits for dawn. Tomorrow, the Bastille falls. Tonight, a baker makes peace with becoming a revolutionary. The numbers that governed his day, 12 loaves, 40 families, 14 sous, 20 pounds of flour, fade into insignificance beside a larger calculation. How much is freedom worth? Jacques Moreau, baker of Paris, has decided the answer. Everything, worth everything. The sun will rise in 4 hours. History will begin.